Fusion Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
Welcome to Fusion Mobile e-learning center or e-learning class. My name is Fayomi Kende and this is English language. Today we'll be taking the topic speech work, and under speech work we'll be dealing with word stress in English, word stress rules, words of two syllables stressed on the first syllable, words of two syllables stressed on the second syllable, words that have a consonant combination of K and W. We have words of three syllables stressed on the first syllable, words of three syllables stressed on the second syllable, and words of three syllables that are stressed on the first syllable. First, before we move on, what is a syllable to start with? A syllable is defined as a unit of word that can be pronounced or permissible in one breath. In a syllable, we have a combination of one or more consonants and a vowel sound. We can have a word of a syllable, and we can have as a word that has as long as 4 or 5 syllables. In each syllable, there is always the combination of a consonant and a vowel sound. Now, in English language, there are patterns of pronunciation, and when we are pronouncing words, we make use of stress. The word that carries the stress, the syllable that carries the stress in a particular word has the more emphasis on that stress. This stress is described as the unit or the volume of pronunciation that we apply to that syllable. Take for instance, in the word export. This particular word has two derivations. We can have it as a noun or as a verb. If we have it as a noun, the first syllable is going to carry the stress because more emphasis is laid on pronouncing the first syllable, which will be pronounced as export. Export. And the sign of stress is indicated when we look up words in our dictionary. We find this diacritic mark behind the syllable that carries the stress. In the other form of this word, which is the verb form, when we look it up in the dictionary, we see that the second syllable carries the stress, and we have the diacritic mark behind the second syllable, and it's pronounced as export. Export. We see the difference that from the first one, which is export. This one is export. So when pronouncing our words, we make use of the stress. It helps to identify the syllable that carries more stress, that has more emphasis, and it is determined by the loudness of the voice, the pitch of the voice while pronouncing these words. We also have to note that we have two levels of stress. We have the primary stress and the secondary stress. If we have a particular word that has more than 2 syllables and has a primary and a secondary stress, the secondary stress is the main stress in the word, while the primary stress is a subordinate stress compared to that of the main stress. And the way of identifying a word that carries the main and the primary stress, the secondary and the primary stress, is the use of the diacritic mark. We said here that the diacritic mark is behind the word that carries the stress, above that word. But in the case where we have a word that carries a primary stress, the diacritic mark is going to be below the word, or the syllable rather. it's going to be below the syllable. An example of a word that carries both the primary and the secondary stress is information. Now let us break this word into syllables. We have in, for, may, shun. Now when we look up this word in the dictionary, we realize that the word that carries the main stress is the third syllable, information, and we have the diacritic mark that indicates the main stress in the word, and the first syllable carries the primary stress, and we have the diacritic mark to indicate that the first syllable carries the primary stress. Information. The main stress falls on the third syllable and the primary stress falls on the first syllable. Now let us go to the stress rules in English. The word stress rules. We have 5 major word stress rules. The first one is nouns and vowels, and verbs rather. Nouns and verbs. Here we should note that words that have both noun and verb meanings have separate or different stress patterns. Examples are contest, present, mandate, and record. Their verb form carries their stress on the second syllable, and note that the diacritic marks are indicated here to show us where the stress falls. We should also note that with the difference in their stress pattern, their pronunciations also vary. The noun contest, the verb form is pronounced as contest, contest, contest. Present, 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 present. Mandate, 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 mandate. We have record, and in the verb form we have record, record, record. The second rule says two syllable nouns and adjectives. In words where we have two syllable nouns, that are two syllable nouns and adjective, the stress falls on the first syllable. Examples are sample, carton, export, gentle, anthem, cheerful, bitter, etc. The other rule says two syllable verbs and prepositions. Examples of them are relax, direct, receive. Now we should know that in the case of verbs and prepositions, the stress falls on the second syllable. The stress falls on the second syllable. Always take note of the diacritic indications to show where the stress falls. Again, we take the examples. We have relax, we have direct, we have receive, rotate, among, aside, between, without. The number 4 rule says 3 syllable words. Words with suffixes. Word with suffixes er, or, le, mostly ly rather, mostly have their stress on the first syllable. For example, manager, Victor, elderly, etc. The 5th rule says words with prefixes usually do not take stress on the first syllable. Examples are dismiss, ensure, inside, example, etc. I'm sure that with these rules that we've learned today, and the examples that we've given, we'll be able to familiarize ourselves and practice more on the rules of word stress. A few questions are going to pop up on the screen for us to attempt. If we find any difficulties in answering them, let us go back to review this video. Thank you.